Hello, hello. I am Ben Pick, and thank you for joining me in Running to Write, where I give questionable writing advice through running metaphors. And if you can't tell, this is live, and as I already had to do this take twice because I didn't hit the go live button, there will be mistakes, and you're in for a ride. So allow me to introduce the person to my right, my alpha reader, but more importantly, my wife, Adriana.
Hi.
And also to her right is our dog Rufus, who is wrapped up in his burrito blanket. It actually looks like a burrito. And if you hear any resigned sighs and or snoring, it's coming from him.
Yes. Okay.
And yeah, thank you everyone in the chat. So it looks like thank you SD Houston for joining us. Thank you Morgan Lee. Thank you Mama Maggie Ward. And thank you Richard. I appreciate all of you for joining and saying hi. So let's get this episode underway. There are a lot of writers with significant others who may or may not also be writers. I'm married to a non-writer. During the early phases of our relationship, it was important to find a balance in getting feedback and getting writing help and being respectful of each other's time. So for every couple, that will be a compromise. Tonight, we're discussing our strategies and the difficulties in our relationship with regards to writing. No relationship is the same, but our advice won't apply to all situations. However, we are going to try and get it so that it could apply to maybe a close friend, a roommate, or a family member who you bring into your inner writing circle. Also, I'm not a full-time author, so there will be a lot of differences between my experiences and somebody whose livelihood is based on their writing. And we'll be framing the discussion in terms of working with a partner because that's what we know, but they could also be extrapolated to a friend, a roommate, whomever you have coerced into helping you who isn't a professional. So with that out of the way, Adriana, you're a new guest to this channel on the official channel. You came on once before for Watch Party, but this is officially Running to Write. So obviously you've been helping me for a while now. Do you want to give some background on yourself and on us to let people know where you're coming from and how what we're coming at from as we answer more pointed questions?
Sure. So, for everyone who doesn't know, everyone who's not friends with us in real life, Ben and I have been married for 5 years, and we've been together for 10. I've been helping him with his writing for about 9 years. So, once we were dating for a little over a year, he showed me his first draft. The first draft I got to see of his original novel, his first novel. Um, I am not a copy editor or an editor by trade. At the time, I was a paralegal for the government, and now I edit and maintain websites for the government. So creative fiction is not in my wheelhouse. But I do try and support you as best I can. I am an avid reader, but coming from reading fully finished novels to working on a novel is a very different experience. Yes,
That's
hello,
true.
baby.
And it looks like our dog finally woke up after a half an hour of
Apparently,
just.
my hands are very tasty.
Hmm.
There's nothing on them.
Now, I've used you as an alpha reader, which means you read a lot of my material before anyone else, some of which has been very rough versions. What are some of the struggles which go along with that?
So there's a lot of struggles that are different from alpha reading compared to just reading in general or editing something that's not creative fiction. I think probably the biggest hurdle to get over is if you're accustomed to college editing or essay editing or article editing, you're really focused on whether something is clear and concise, and whether the grammar is correct, which was obviously, the last thing you were interested in. Not to say you didn't appreciate those edits, because you said you did, but I mean, you were really more interested in, does the plot make sense? Do the characters make sense? Are they consistent? And not having that editing experience, I wasn't looking at it that way because as a reader, I was accustomed to being entertained. Um, And so I really governed it whether or not I was entertained, and I had to really get in the mindset of providing you constructive feedback on those items.
Also, sorry, I'm also paying attention to the chat, and Richard thinks that you're parachuting paralegal because of the word para in there, or you're a parachuting lawyer. So thank you for the funny, Richard. Yeah, so Richard's saying, I actually think that having a non-writing early reader can be fascinating and useful insight. So
yes, if you prep them correctly, which we will talk about.
We'll get there. We'll get there. You see, I'm trying to address these comments as they come in, so we can post that there.
Yes.
Trying to give you all your fair due, and as you have interesting comments, I want to show them to the world.
He's fine.
What was the most challenging aspect of me being a writer from an outsider's perspective?
I would say there were a couple. The most challenging is that, as my family has described you, you are the princess and the pea. You are very, very sensitive to noise and disturbance, both when you sleep and when you're writing, which is fine until you get really in. You run away with it sometimes where you're being really wildly dramatic and you need to just get noise canceling headphones. When we were in a 1-bedroom apartment, it was really difficult to stay as quiet as you wanted me to be.
Oh, and there's a fun bonus coming up later about that 1-bedroom apartment. So get ready for that. With regards to expectations, if you were working with a friend or a partner, how do you set reasonable schedule for when to hand things back and forth to each other?
So this is interesting because when we started, I was working like 80 to 90-hour weeks. I was working a lot. And I was traveling a lot. One of your years, like one of those years, I missed your birthday because I was in Philadelphia for a trial, which was brutal. Don't worry. I sent him a dozen cupcakes delivered to his door.
They were great.
I'm not that cruel-hearted. But I mean, it was really hard for me to turn around anything in a timely fashion because I was just working so much. And initially, you were really frustrated with that until, I expressed to you how much I was working and I was commuting like an hour and a half a day. It was just a lot. And when I actually communicated that to you, you said, I didn't think of it that way. Now I'm in more of a position where, I'm working a steady 40 hours a week, and you can come to me more with, asking me to spend a week and a half reading your book and actually commenting on the draft and giving you really substantive feedback. But I think it was important for us to establish, what my working conditions were like, and the actual time I had to give to you, because you were not satisfied with the feedback I was able to give you because of my lack of time. But I was also really stressed out because you didn't seem to realize that I was that busy. And once we cleared that up and actually talked about it, and I gave you kind of a sense of the amount of hours I had in a day, it worked out a lot better because we were able to work out an actual reasonable schedule.
Sure. And in terms of reasonable schedule expectations for what you're ultimately working on, what do you think were some of the differences between asking you for help versus when I hired a professional editor?
So to me, that was less about schedule and more about the actual edits that you wanted. Um, at multiple points in your different drafts, you asked me for specific types of edits. And initially, you seemed pretty frustrated that I was unable to provide you exactly what you were asking for. And I had to remind you that while I was editing briefs because I was a paralegal, I had never edited a creative work of fiction. And I didn't know what the difference between, like, I still don't know what all the editors are. I know there's a line editor and a copy editor and probably other different kinds of editors.
Don't worry, I'll be putting out a video of that shortly, coming midsummer.
Right. So I don't know all these different kinds of editors and what they do. I only know as a reader, a recreational reader, what I read and what I like. So you were asking me to do these specific types of editing that I just didn't know how to do. And I think at one point I actually blew up at you and I tried to explain it to you in my own terms, which was, if I was coming at you and said, blue book this brief, and you said, well, I wouldn't know how to do that. And I said, exactly, because it was a training I had to take and something I had to learn and not something you just know intrinsically. That did get us. I mean, I don't recommend blowout fights, but I mean, if you can get someone on the same page with you, I think it's a good thing.
Then how would you define when something is unfair, or when I came to you with a timeline that you knew was too short, or when I was asking you to do too much? At what point? What is the best way of handling something when a partner asks you to do something that's unfair?
So I think, and I did not do this, which is my own fault. I think you really have to go back to someone and say, I have a lot on my plate right now. I don't think I can turn this around in the time you want with the quality that you're asking for. And if they're first of all, if they're asking for more detail on that and they're being difficult, I mean that's red flag. Red flag on the play. But I mean, if they're receptive to that and they're just asking what the problem is, do you need more time? Is this unrealistic for any number of reasons? Actually hash out that conversation and say, maybe my mind is preoccupied because work is really busy. And I just don't think that I can mull it over the way that you want. And I've said that to you sometimes that, my project is too busy and I don't think I can give this the consideration you need. And I've actually told you when I think that timeline is supposed to lighten up. And that I'll have, yeah, deep sighs over here. When I think I'm going to have more time and, can you remind me again in a week or two and we can assess where this project is at with work so that when I have the mental space and energy, I can actually devote it to looking at your stuff and giving you the consideration that you actually want.
Mm-hmm. And Shannon brought up a great question that had to do with, do I make a list of questions for you to answer? And it depends. So
Yeah,
sometimes I'll say
depends.
like, hey, just tell me what you think. In this current iteration, I'm like, hey, tell me what you think about these characters, about the plot, about the theme, just general thoughts on the book. But sometimes I do give more poignant and specific questions for you to answer. But those are usually few and far between. I think that more aligns with a beta reader. For you, I'm just, what are your overall thoughts of what I have? Or
I mean, I would say to that question, it really, first of all, it depends upon the relationship with the person that you have. I mean, obviously, Ben and I are married. We have a certain relationship with little to no boundaries.
Yeah.
So, we're very upfront and frank with each other, and we also understand each other's schedules. But also, like, if this is an alpha reader and you have pointed questions, you want to see if something works, then ask those questions. But let the person know, let whoever's reading know, can they be frank? Are they going to hurt your feelings? Is this something where you want unvarnished, unfettered advice and feedback? Or is this something where, you're not going to request that because maybe your feelings could get hurt and they don't want to damage that? The inclination for your alpha readers, especially people that you are close to, is going to be that they don't want to dampen your light. They don't want to, poop all over your hobby or your career or whatever it is that you're doing. If you want unfettered, realistic advice or feedback, you need to tell people that you want that. And then you can't get upset at them when you give it, like when they give it. You can't be angry about it or you're never going to be able to use that person again.
That's fair. And what steps can we take to ensure that we're respectful of each other's time?
So, I mean, what we did this week is a great example. So, Ben gave me this week another iteration of his book and asked me to read through it again. And when he gave it to me, first of all, he gave it to me in a format that I could easily consume and read because we talked about what was an easy way for me to read it in a more rapid manner. That's how I'm accustomed to consuming books, which for me is on an ebook reader. But also, you asked me if a week and a half was enough time for me to actually go through and read it. And I said yes. I thought that it was. And I think that if I'd said no, I don't think I can turn it around in that amount of time. You might have assessed, do I need to push it back?
Mhm.
Or, is 2 weeks okay? Um, really being respectful of your alpha readers' time and that they're, if you're not paying them, they're effectively donating their time to you, giving you time out of the rest of their life, um, to really figure out if they can get you. Yes, hello. Um, get you the actual full feedback that you want.
Right. So it might be helpful to ask, do you have time for this? And how much time do you have? And then to conservatively pad those estimates.
Right.
So an alpha reader doesn't have, the same experience level with the material that I do. So I could
Right.
easily.
I mean, if you were asking me for like line by line, making sure that everything was grammatically correct, there were no issues in addition to the plot and the characters, I would have, if you'd said a week and a half, I would have laughed at you
Right.
because I have a full time job. That's insane.
No,
I
that's
mean,
that's completely true.
realistically.
Yeah. And another thing is that I have pretty intimate knowledge about my story, which,
Mhm.
I've been in that world for years and I work on it basically every day, which you don't do. So it's unfair to expect you to treat it with the same background knowledge that I have.
That's true, but it's also so I say the same thing about web development. It's very hard when someone comes in who's never looked at my stuff. It's exciting to me because it means that I have someone who has no expectations other than how to handle something from like a very cursory point of view. Um, and you get that benefit of people who are alpha readers or beta readers who are not familiar with your stuff at all, that they can give you feedback and say, this doesn't make any sense. I don't understand what you're going for here. Now, there are times you're trying to confuse a reader. I get that. It makes sense. But every time I flag it for you and say, this doesn't make any sense. I don't understand what you're trying to say here. And occasionally you're like, that's my goal. My goal is to confuse the reader. Fine, cool. But sometimes you ask me what I mean, and I'm like, I cannot express to you, like, this does not make sense to me as a reader. And it's hard for you to have that point of view because you're so immersed in it on a daily basis.
Sorry, I don't want to lose that one question there. Yeah, so Jordan's asking, what do you do to get in tune on Friday? So if you had a difficult experience, how do you get that motivation to write? That's tough. Fridays are usually not a good writing day for
That's
me.
your least productive writing day.
Saturday mornings, however, are. So Friday nights,
So Ben is one of the pod people who prefers working in the mornings.
I'm a very early morning person. So Jordan, I don't have advice for you for writing on a Friday night. However, I do use Friday as a chance to completely unwind, to do nothing after work. And that way, come Saturday, I mean, I am up early, I go for a run, I come back and I am focused. So I the best advice I can give is to know your limitations, know how you work best, and then try and reschedule yourself to write as best you can.
I do
So
feel oddly qualified to weigh in here because while I'm not a writer, I do have ADHD, diagnosed ADHD, for which I'm generally medicated. Um, know your limitations. If you have days or times of the day that are not productive for you, don't necessarily force yourself to be productive in those times of the day. If you find stuff getting away from you and you just can't get back on track, maybe take that time to decompress and then actually come back to it when it's a time of day or, a different day where you feel that you can actually sit down and focus. Obviously, this doesn't work if you're doing that every day. But if you really just can't focus at a certain point of the day, honestly, step up and walk away from where you're working, go and do something, literally anything else, and then come back to it and see how you feel.
it's fair. And we can obviously say that writing is my hobby and it's not your passion project.
It is not my passion project.
How do we define different boundaries when asking for help? I rely on you for a lot, whether it's reading my manuscripts. That's the least of it. I've shown you troublesome paragraphs and asked for your opinions on how to fix those issues. And you've designed the website, and
I volunteered to do that. You did not ask me to do that.
That is true.
So, I mean, making sure that you have clear boundaries is important. There was one point where you came in, this was early in the pandemic when Ben has always worked from home. And I have not always worked from home, despite being a web developer. It doesn't matter. But during the pandemic, I started working from home full time. And at one point you got a little flustered. I wouldn't say annoyed, but a little flustered that you came in to ask my feedback on something on your lunch break. And I was busy. I was in a meeting, actively in a meeting and participating in it. And I think I held up my finger to you, like, I can't right now. And I think you got a little offended by that. But then not long after, I came in to show you something funny, and you were also in a meeting, and I pointed out that you did the same thing to me. And I think that kind of turned it over in your head, and you were like, oh, you were actually like doing your job. But have that, be able to communicate back and forth when you're actually busy, if you're actively working on something, and you can't be interrupted, because there are times where you interrupting me is extremely detrimental and it makes it hard for me to focus or hard for me to do a specific thing. There was one time you interrupted me when I was cooking, like you were just talking to me, and I sliced my finger wide open.
I was not in the kitchen. That you did entirely on your own.
You were not in the kitchen, but you were talking to me, and I turned my head and I sliced my finger wide open.
I went to the hospital, and yeah.
It's fine. My finger is fine. But I expressed to you that maybe when I'm cutting things with a knife is not the best time to get my opinion on something. And when I'm actively cooking, I've asked you, to say, can I have your opinion on something? And then before you continue talking to me, to actually wait for me to finish what I'm doing with knives. Just because that's what I need. But having that open communication back and forth, it's going to vary depending on the relationship that you're in. If you're living with someone or if you're not living with someone, maybe you're trying to contact someone via email all day or text message all day, and they're not replying because they're busy. They're busy with work, or sometimes I was underground in the metro and I wasn't getting service and I can't respond to you. There's any number of reasons, but expecting someone to reply to you immediately and drop everything they're doing is never good. So if you're requesting something from someone, be a little patient.
And I'm getting a lot of pushback in the comments, which is completely fair. But when you were in the kitchen, I did not realize that you were cutting knives when we were having a conversation. I was just shouting in the room, and you were shouting back at me, and I didn't realize that you were actually cutting.
This goes back to having ADHD and my being easily distractible. I actually didn't realize I had cut myself until I was looking at the cabbage I was cutting.
And it got much worse too, because then you looked at it, and then you
touched it. It was actually fine. If we'd had steri strips, it would have been fine.
It was not fine. We drove the hospital. Anyways,
it was fine.
We got a question for you. Do you ever find yourself needing to say to me, "I just can't hear about your book right now"?
So there is a handful of times I refuse to weigh in on the book. If we're having an argument and I'm angry at him, I refuse to what I call work for him. When I'm annoyed with you, I do not work for you. You cannot have my time when we are in a strong disagreement. It doesn't happen all that often, but I can't read your stuff when I'm angry at you. I cannot do it. There was this period last year.
Sorry. Was the story you were working on when you put her life in danger with a knife one that panned out?
First of all, it's more important to note that I was starving when you forced me to go to the ER. I was so angry you made me go to the ER that when I got back, because I had cut
she got 6 stitches, we had to go to the ER.
It would have been fine. I cut my non-dominant hand, obviously, because I was using my dominant hand. But I was making these amazing quick kimchi chicken thighs, and I was determined we were going to have them. So we got back from the ER like 2 hours later, and I finished making dinner. It was delicious.
It was really good.
Yeah. But to sorry. Yeah, I would say there are times I tell Ben that I can't read his book, but it's not that often. I mean, when I was like mired deep in work stuff, I asked you to put a pin in it.
And when you were on vacation, you were reading for enjoyment.
When I was on vacation, I wasn't even trying to read anything to better myself. I was trying to read. I was trying to read
sister
nonsense.
and your mom.
I wanted to read nothing of importance.
And I wanted to double back to one of the things you said where you were working on my website. That was a way to align what I was looking for with your interest too. So it was a really good collaboration.
Well, I mean, I looked at your website and I was like, this can't be your website. And I only made cursory changes, but I mean,
you upgraded.
That's what I do for a living. I manage websites. I mean, for you to have a website that wasn't even like didn't meet the base qualifications of what I would consider necessary was, reflects poorly on me.
Yeah, so that's a really good point to address when you're working with a partner or when you're getting help, is to try and get their interest to match with what you need. So we just went to the park and took some videos of me running. There's the picture of me holding the book.
This is something you asked me to do, but I also I am the person in your family, not in my family. My sister's way better at it than me, but in your family, I'm the person who, I think the only person who owns a standalone proper camera.
Yeah.
I bought a DSLR and I just like taking photos, and I mean, my camera can take videos and stuff. So, why not? I had a tripod already. Easy peasy.
And then, so we're jumping all around in what we're talking about tonight. But so it helps to, when asking for help, to get everything to align between what your partner's interests are and what you're requesting that they do. In this case, it was helping me make a website, helping photograph me, helping take video of me running with my dog.
Periodically give you Instagram ideas and then execute those Instagram ideas.
Yes, everything that goes to your wheelhouse.
And just to answer that quick question, yes, I'm a developer. I mean, mostly
I should probably do that.
Mostly I do web management, but I do have a computer science degree, and I do manage and develop on sites.
And Lauren, I do have a website. It's www.benpig.com or www.writingtowrite.com. They are not quite the best. I'm going to upgrade them shortly once I have my, I'm waiting for some things to fall in line where I'm going to have a book. When my book is ready, I'm going to then do a major update on my website. So
I'm going to do a major update on your website.
So with that criticism right there, how do you separate honest feedback from what feels like personal attacks or hurting someone's feelings, even though I know that I'm terrible at designing websites?
Okay. No, this is totally separate and totally different, because I can poke fun at your website. It's a totally different thing when we talk about your writing. It did not
look good. Version 1.0 was terrible.
And you are, first of all, you're way more sensitive about your writing than anything else. So the first thing is, this comes from the writer. You set the expectations of what your readers can and can't tell you. You did not tell me I could give you unvarnished, unglossed, true total feedback. So you didn't get unvarnished, unglossed, true total feedback.
I did it the first time.
No, you didn't. No, you didn't.
Fair enough.
If you don't tell your readers that they can actually be truly honest with you and mean it, you're not going to get that feedback from them. Like, full stop. You're just not. No one who loves you or likes you is going to actively try and dull your particular shine. Okay? Nobody wants to do that. At the same point, initial writing can be rough. Your writing has come a very long way in the 9 years that I've been reading it. But initially I didn't feel like I could give you totally brutal feedback. And I also, again, I didn't want to crush your spirit. Now we're at a point where, one, your writing has come a long way. And two, I mean, you and I have been together a long time. I feel like I can give you truly honest feedback and say, this character's terrible. And I don't understand their motivations at these points, but I also know how to read it and assess where the weak points are and where the strong points are, what you can bolster up and what you need to pull back on.
That's fair. And yeah, with the 1.0 version, you were one of the first people to tell me that a 400,000 plus word novel
was so long.
Was so long. Yeah, was
so
too long.
The sign should have been to you, given how much I read, that you were like, why aren't you done yet?
And you also really didn't like one of those characters, which was great. It was intentional that he was a sexist ass, but he
was not a character you cared to read about. Right. Was the problem.
You helped make me realize that I went over the top with him, and together we came up with a compromise, which was we changed their gender and motivations.
That was your assessment.
Thanks to your feedback, we have made them much less abrasive and much less headstrong. So now they're a lot more interesting, and they're still...
You can have a complex character that has deeply rooted character flaws that you still root for because of their redeeming character qualities.
Right. But yeah, that character, before I made all those changes, was pretty awful.
Yes.
But we worked together, and we were able to find the root cause and fix a fundamental issue. So I think it all worked out. It's hard to separate the two sometimes, since you put so much of yourself and effort and passion into your writing, but it gets easier over time to handle feedback. Thank you. Sorry, I should have just...
It is fun to cheer for a bad guy, but the bad guy either has to be one, like, deliciously, unrepentingly bad, or have a redeeming quality. You can't have a bad guy that you root for who is both unrepentingly bad and not fun or like just delicious in some way. There has to be something about them that is scintillating or delightful to really get the reader to root for them.
Going back to that 1.0 version of the story, what are some ways you might tell someone you care about that the story they're working on isn't good or that needs severe improvements?
Okay, so this is difficult because there's two separate cruxes here, in my opinion, as a reader, just in general. The first is the nugget, is the idea of the story, like the core of the story, is it good? And in my opinion, yours was. And in my opinion, that's also the hardest thing to come up with, is a core idea that has promise. If you're reading something where the core idea doesn't have promise, I don't know. I don't know how to help you. Good luck.
I mean, just how would you... What are some ways that you can let a writer off easily that what they're working on needs severe improvements?
So I can only say what I said to you, which was, I thought there was too much prose of them talking around and not enough action, which I phrased to you as, it's important to have characters talk to each other. But ultimately, if there's not enough action in a story that is a fantasy, science fiction driven story, it's not as compelling. I think I also used the phrase like they go on a walkabout, which, I mean, we all agree, most people agree, Lord of the Rings is like a great book, but like, how long of a walk do you really want to go on in modern books?
Well, it'd be nice to actually walk from Mordor to the Shire, which you can do in real life. So that is something that would be nice to do.
But eventually. I mean, I think it was multiple points. It was addressing specific deficiencies in your story and not throwing out the story in and of itself. Because I thought that the crux of the story held promise. So, I did tell you, I don't think that this character is sympathetic. You can have a character that, again, is deeply flawed, but I don't root for this character. I don't see a value in them. And I said, I think that there's a lot of exposition with these characters talking to each other. I don't think there needs to be as much. And then I showed you entire scenes that I thought needed to be cut down or just removed because I didn't see the value add. But ultimately, I don't think it's a stock saying like this story's no good. Because if the core of the story is good, then there's something to be worked on there, and it's more of a matter of cutting to that story.
Okay. So yeah, sorry, we got 2 questions in here, which I think we can address kind of as best we can.
Sure.
One of them is, what's your favorite story of mine? And I haven't really written a whole. I've given you a lot of repeats, but I don't think I've given you a whole lot of diversity in terms of stories.
No, I've been reading the primary series that you're
That's
working
right.
on.
Yeah, I mean, I have given you a couple of my short stories too, but yeah, mostly is this the one series. So
Yeah.
sorry, just Eva, that's an easy answer. And then we asked for one of our blind listeners what we look like. So I'll just try and give as quick of a rundown as I.
I'm gonna give.
No, okay, go for it.
I'm gonna give that description. So Ben is about 6 feet tall. He's pretty lean. He's a runner.
My hair's curlier than I like right now. It's skin scruffy.
His hair is approximately 2 inches long. It's a little salt and pepper. It has a slight curl to it, and he's got a little bit of scruff to him right now. He has a prominent nose, which is usually referred to as a Roman nose, and he's got brown eyes. He's also pretty furry as far as guys go. He's got a bit of fuzz to him.
They can't see that though because I'm wearing a shirt. So
correct. I am about 5'5". I'm about a medium build. I'm a little curvy.
Very curly hair.
I've got quite curly hair, about 3A hair. I'm also a little salt and pepper. My hair's in like a bob hairstyle, and I've got blue-green eyes. We're both pretty pale. We're very pale people. I hope that helps.
That's what I was going to say. So yeah, that works. And I wanted to go back to establishing expectations. So we mentioned how we establish boundaries and what to look for in the writing itself, but this is more of how do you adjust your expectations? So like you said, the first time when you were going through my...
I'm sorry, this is important. Also, yes, our dog here is about 70 pounds and he's brindled. Someone said he looks like a lab. That's what we thought. He is a purebred plot hound.
Got him from a lab rescue.
He's bred for hunting bears, according to Embark.
Yeah, so he's about 70 pounds. He's kind of lean. He's got a very goofy run.
He's got a very goofy run. He's got one canine tooth because he was a stray before we got him.
And he's got some nice floppy ears.
He's got very floppy ears, which I pet all the time.
He's also got a graying muzzle.
So. Yes, he does. But he's a plot hound, PLOTT. Like I said, they're the state dog of North Carolina, and they're bred for hunting black bears. Rufus mostly hunts for me around the house.
He also hunts for chicken bones in the street because he's terrible.
Also true. I'm sorry, interrupted.
Yeah, no, it's perfectly fine. I like that we're addressing the chat and we're sort of tag teaming, so that's great. I wanted to ask how we adjust our expectations. So when you went through that first version of the story, you were in your paralegal mind, so you were looking for grammar issues.
Yes.
Which was helpful, but wasn't what I needed because what I needed was some fundamental help. So what are some ways that we can adjust?
Okay. So, I mean, I've come up with this after the fact. It doesn't help you now, but hopefully it helps somebody else. There are different ways that you can go in with an alpha reader. You and I went in blind, and I think it added a couple years to your process. Sorry about that, but I didn't know what I was doing. You didn't know what you were doing, so it was just, uninformed people doing their best. I would say probably you're gonna have a better time if you're looking for plot feedback and character feedback. Give a synopsis to your alpha reader instead of making them do all the work on their own. Say, this is a list of the characters. This is their basic description. And this is an outline of the story. Maybe even have emotional beats that you want to hit. And then your reader can actually look back at that and say, oh, I didn't get that from this character at all. I didn't get this characteristic from them at all. Like, here's all these points where, like, the opposite of this happens. Or, they can look at the different points, even based on chapters or, wherever they are in the book and say, I don't think you hit this emotional beat, and here's why. it really gives them a point to give you constructive feedback based off of your own expectations. Whereas otherwise, they're comparing it against just other novels they've read, which really, I mean, it depends upon your novel. How familiar are they with the genre you're writing in? Or, the specific style of book that you're writing in? It can vary dramatically.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you're giving them something of your own expectations and saying, does this meet this? It actually gives them a framework to give you constructive feedback without them having to come up with it all on their own when they may not be good at that to start with.
Yeah, I definitely got a lot better feedback from you once I gave you an outline of my first story.
Yes.
Versus just handing you, like I said, a 400,000 plus word manuscript.
Well, I will say, like, if you're a reader and you prefer going in blind, that's totally one thing.
Again, set those expectations.
As someone who's not a writer, who's not sure how to give feedback, I just thought it would have been extremely helpful.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, this is more applicable if, if your reader doesn't have a preference, if they're not sure how to provide you feedback, if they're struggling a little bit with how to provide you feedback, I just think this can give a good framework.
Yeah, right. Keeping open, honest communication is key.
Yeah.
And we like to combine that with loud
deep
sighs.
Always deep sighs from the peanut gallery over here.
And we had a nice comment from Lauren about how she's asking whether or not I give you everything to read. And I do give you a lot, probably more than I should. There have definitely been times where I've given you emails and when I sign up for work and you're like, Ben, you cannot say that.
First of all, I've told you to do that because I'm a very upfront and blunt person. You make it like being upfront and blunt is a contest you're trying to win, and you can't always talk to people that way.
That is true. And that is definitely true. In terms of open communication, though, don't be the person on a team or project who lets everyone else do all the work for you or who does the work for everyone else. So you need both types in a relationship when you're writing and asking for help. And
there's a time and a place for candor.
What are some ways to establish healthy boundaries?
I think that this does go hand in hand with however your relationship with the person works. The longer that we've been together, the more I feel I can tell you, I don't have time for that right now. Usually I'll give you kind of an estimate of why or when I'll have time. But periodically I'm just like, I can't, I'm busy, because I'm actively focusing on something. But if it's more of a long-term sort of thing, just establishing when it is and isn't okay to call or text and expect immediate feedback. If you're trying to get in touch with a friend and they're on vacation, maybe you should let them be on vacation. Periodically Ben did message me on vacation, but
it was mostly
that's not a complaint. And it's very much that, I want to talk to Ben every day. And I was also pinging him throughout the day. If someone that has gone off the grid for whatever reason, personal restoration of their own, like, emotional stores, or they just need a break, or they're spending time with family, or, God forbid they've lost someone and they just need some time to grieve. I think it's always worthwhile to err on the side of giving someone some space, and maybe putting a feeler out to see how they're doing before you ask for their help again. If it is a relationship that's, a romantic relationship or a partner that you spend a lot of time with, you should be in constant communication with that person in terms of your expectations and what does and doesn't work. And if for whatever reason you feel like you're not communicating well with that person, it might be time to sit down and recalibrate that relationship and the communication that you're having with each other.
That's fair. And you defined earlier that I am very particular about my writing nook and the volume and the background noise.
Yes.
How might you define, or how might you work with a partner or roommate or whomever to create that writing nook? I kind of need silence when I write, so I sequester myself in the basement and ask not to be disturbed. But how do we get to that point where we were able to establish that?
I think you need to have reasonable expectations. If you are in a 1 or 2 bedroom apartment that you share with another person,
Hold on about that.
If you're in a 1 or 2 bedroom apartment you share with another person and you need total silence during the weekend hours to get all of your writing done, you're going to have a bad time because that's when people need to do their laundry. It's when they need to clean. It's when they need to bake brownies like this photo that you're sharing.
Yeah, that's from our 1-bedroom apartment. You can see the dining table in the background. You can see my work desk.
That work desk that also doubled as my school desk, because while I was a paralegal, and one of the reasons you and I got so frustrated with this is I was going to school to get another bachelor's degree while I was working 80 hours a week, towards the end of which I was also planning our wedding. So I got a little annoyed when you needed total silence because I was busy.
Yeah. So you can see me taking a break from writing to enjoy some lovely brownie batter right from the container after it had been poured out. Yeah, good. That is actually the lamp in my background.
Lamp.
Thank you. Adriana took the photo.
I mean, not for nothing, I routinely used sweet treats and brownie batter and things to, kind of soften your annoyance.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, thank you for joining us, Jordan. I'm sorry you have to go, but I'm glad you could join us for as long as you could. And yeah, so just saying this visual, Adriana is basically right off screen,
in the tiny kitchen,
which is right where our kitchen is. Yeah, so that was a very small apartment. That was a lot to.
We've since got very lucky and bought a house in 2017 before the market went totally insane. So that Rufus can have all of his space to run outside.
He doesn't run.
He does.
He does a lap and then comes to the door and must be let in.
Okay.
All right. So we had some audience questions and I wanted to bring them up. Okay. What are the pros and cons of being with a writer? Which sounds kind of like
I mean, the biggest pro has to be how passionate you are. It's absolutely inspiring and amazing to see how much you light up when you talk about your stories. And you're so inventive. You come up with these amazing ideas and this whole continuity that I just could not come up with. I just think it's amazing. And I really enjoy all of the different ideas that you come up with and how you link them. It really just gets my own creative juices flowing in terms of other things. The biggest con is definitely that you are persnickety about your writing time and your writing location.
This couch.
You've complained when I'm going. We have 3 floors in our house. We have a basement, our ground floor, and a second floor. And Ben will complain if I go up and down the second floor stairs too much, that I'm interrupting him, despite the fact that I'm just trying to clean the house or do other things on the weekend. You are extremely persnickety when it comes to noise.
I know. It's fair that you call me the princess and the pea.
You really just need noise canceling headphones.
And then the other question was, have you read all my writings? And the answer is pretty much yeah.
Pretty much, yeah.
And
I mean, I literally had the draft of your most recent draft on my Kindle to read this week.
Mm-hmm. And that's all the questions that we have about our relationship. So if you have any more, please throw them in the chat window. I'm going to be discussing...
I like this one. How many spa days will Adriana get while you're on your first big book tour? The answer, by the way, is none, because our dog has separation anxiety and he can't be apart from me for longer than an hour without panicking like he's been abandoned.
True. And then what was the other question? Is writing closure more important than the daily adventure?
No.
Okay.
No. I mean, a true lack of closure can be frustrating for a reader, but if the story's really good, if the story keeps me, I can forgive a little bit of lack of closure.
All right. And then Mr. Blandis, I'm trying to get he's saying that, hey, I'll just put it up there. It's easier.
Did you guys discuss how you met?
Well, we can do that a little bit later. I'm trying to get the man cave shop done. So good luck with that. Having a completely separate building for your writing nook is perfect.
No. If anyone's getting a separate nook, it's me.
We don't have room in this house in the backyard for a separate thing, but I encourage somebody else to do that.
If anyone's getting a separate space, it's me to do all that DIY woodwork that needs to be done around the house.
And the short answer of how we met, there's a kickball league in DC, which is basically just minimal physical activity and then going to a bar afterwards. Yes. And we that's basically how we met. We were on different teams, but I was friends with most of the people on her team, and she knew a lot of people on my team. So we ended up just hanging out more and more.
Yeah.
All right. Now, as this is the last episode of my planned season 2, even though season 3 will be picking up next Monday night at 7 p.m. regular time. So the distinguishing point of multiple seasons really kind of is moot. Anyways, I want to discuss what I plan to do next. So again, if there are any questions, just please throw them in there. But I'm going to be discussing the future of this video blogging series. So my next video will be a revealing show about my recording setup. You get a slightly different view here, as you can see the couch instead of the bookshelf right across from there. It's just a different view of my basement, but obviously tonight looks a little bit different, but you'll see the tools I use, the price that each of it cost, and how I was able to really kind of budget for that across multiple years. So I did it piecewise. Thank you. Show the tools and the price of everything as I bring you my weekly content. And I want to absolutely say thank you to everyone. I did another video where I thanked you all for the 100 subscribers, but I passed that mark and I'm continuing to grow. And I cannot thank you all enough for coming here every week, for showing up for a live episode on a Tuesday night to just say hi and to give us your best question. Yeah, budget is their spreadsheet. There is no spreadsheet. Richard,
I'm the spreadsheet czar in this house.
That's not true. I do track where money goes and comes and goes, but I don't track. Whatever. I track it all together. I don't have it explicitly separate for this. But I do really want to thank all of you for the 100 subs, and I'm going to go a little bit more into giving back to all of you, but that's coming up in a few minutes. So as for the future, I've been collaborating with others a lot more. I'm a co-host of Shannon and Morgan, who are in this chat. We do a different video series called the Self-Publishing Tips and Tricks podcast, where we interview self-published authors and try and figure out methods that work for them that could possibly work for you all. I'm also a co-host with Morgan again and Natalie Locke and Nia the Vixen of Fiction for Scripting the Book, where we watch,
which is really fun, by the way.
You were there for the watch party, but we watch movies or shows. Coming up this weekend, it's going to be Bridgerton season 2, and then we discuss and compare them to the source material. So Bridgerton season 2 is based on The Viscount Who Loved Me. And then let me back up everything. I'm sorry, my mind is all over the place right now. Going back to the Self-Publishing Tips and Tricks podcast. Those videos come out the 1st and 15th of every month. And our guest episode on the 15th, I think I have that right, was Sako Toomey. And our next guest on the 1st will be Heidi Thorne. So Shannon, correct me if I'm wrong, but I hope I got that right. I'm also a co-host, like I said, for Scripting the Book. And our next episode is coming out on Sunday, I believe. And it's, like I said, Bridgerton season 2. Plus, there are a few more collaborations in the queue. I think I have an interview that Amy performed of me. So she interviewed me, asked me some questions. I think that's coming out on Sunday. So that's Amy Rosenfeld's channel. Sorry, Amy Rosenfeld's channel. And if you haven't watched her, if you're not subscribed to her, you should. She's a lot of fun. I'm also going to be on Books by Adrian, I want to say late May. So get excited for the mystery box of what's to come.
So I'm gathering you're a slacker.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you, Lauren. I am all over AuthorTube today. It's been fun. Yeah, so that's some of the things I've been working on, and I'm trying to do more and more as the channel grows. So now, the moment you've all been waiting for. I teased it, I don't know, in one of my previous episodes. I teased it a month ago, or I teased it in episode 50. Thank you. And this is the cover reveal for my debut novel, Falling Through. The story follows Derek as he reveals his powers to his best friend, and after nearly killing her in the demonstration, he unleashes a monster which haunts him and sends him on a journey across time. Sends him and his friends on a journey across time. So this is, well, I gotta click through it, but let me see if I can do this right. There we go. This is the cover for Falling Through. I almost showed the picture of my one bedroom apartment again. Yeah. So this is Falling Through. You can see this is beautiful. Meeble Art created the cover, and I can walk you through that process if you're interested. This was a mid-range option in terms of the price, and it came out beautifully. Honestly, in total, I got the full cover and press package, which came out to $360. So,
which, as I said when you told me, was a bargain for the quality, in my opinion.
Yeah, you really
got a really stellar cover.
So I got this cover. I got there's a couple of other things. There's like a Facebook image that can go along with it and various other formats. So yeah, sure. I will definitely add that to my list of things to do for creating a.
And as I said, one of the bigger things is that if you are a person who's a control freak, they, like Meeble Art, who you got this through, did send you the Photoshop files with all of the layers, so that you could actually change and tweak things to your liking, which was, I mean, almost unheard of sometimes in graphics, getting a fully layered file.
Mm-hmm. That's Meeble Art, so MIBLART. And I went to them with a vague idea of what I wanted, and they completely delivered in a timely fashion. Yeah. So the first draft, I think, came back in a week or so, and there were some minor changes, but overall, it was pretty much what you see here from that first instance. And I didn't, I think I have 5 revisions that I could have requested, and I didn't need to go through all of them to be really happy with the end cover.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Meeble Art. There you go, Richard.
They did a great job creating a cohesive color palette for you as well. I mean, you didn't have to adjust the colors at all.
I do not have a link to share, but I will. Let me just get that up. I was not planning ahead when I did this.
Well, now it's my understanding as well. You said that Meeble Art might be based in Ukraine.
Yes.
So please keep that in mind if you're looking for something with fast turnaround. I think you should still support them. They did amazing work. But
the turnaround might be longer.
Maybe keep in mind that it may be difficult for them to turn things around in a timely fashion right now, given what's happening.
Yeah. But I think they are still globally, so I'm sure that they have other designers, artists, whomever. So you should be able to, No pen name. Nope. I went with just my full name, or my abbreviated name. I guess Benjamin Pick would probably have been the full name, but I like Ben Pick, so sticking with that. And so that's the first part. I did want to do giveaways, so let me try and set all that up. But with all that said, I do want to thank you for joining me on Running to Write in this week's live stream, and for being willing to answer these tough-hitting questions, these uncomfortable and often personal questions. So
it's not uncomfortable for me. Might be uncomfortable for you.
I liked it. So yeah, we had 14 people currently in the live stream. We had 15, up to 15 and 16, I think. Yeah. So I wanted to give a lot back. Thanks to everyone for for helping me break 100 subscribers. So I wanted to give back and then some. So what I was originally going to do was going to give away maybe like 2 or 3 instances. We also have these right here of bookmarks. Let me try and show that a little bit closer. There's
the cover art.
There's 2 different versions. There's one with rounded tips, which is a little bit zoomed out more. Then there's another one with the straight edge, which is a little bit darker and doesn't quite have the some of the background stuff. There's a few subtle differences. We did some let me see if I can get close to that.
The benefit of what you can do when someone actually sends you the Photoshop files,
right,
is make tweaks when you need to.
Yeah, so we did do a couple of tweaks with there, and there's different versions of these. So what I wanted to do is give away Amazon gift cards, the
I think
bookmarks.
You're burying the lead there.
And beta reads. Oh yeah, and I also want to do beta reads for people. So
yeah, you're bearing the lead with your time.
That's fair. That's fair. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start doing a giveaway. Let me see if I can get this. Oh, this is going to be pretty bad. Let me see if I can do that. How might I? Yeah, let's go live. This is a bit rough, but I'm trying to share the screen and I have too much stuff going on. So hopefully this works. Cool. Perfect. So I think that works. So what I want to do is do a giveaway, and you can see Meeble art, but this is the giveaway tool. So we can start collecting comments. It should collect everyone. And what I'm going to do is a giveaway for Amazon, for the bookmarks, and for the beta reads. And since we have...
I think your beta read should be first.
Well, we can work up to it. But the point was that I wanted to do... I was going round to 10, so I was going round up. So that means we would technically have 2 drawings, but I think I can increase that to, I guess, 3, assuming that everyone wants a beta read. So that will be burn some on my time, but I wanted to include everything and to still give back to you all who have given me so much in terms of support, in terms of fun comments while we're up here.
But maybe consider all of the ways that you can value add to that beta read by offering an outline and knowing what questions you want to ask Ben.
Exactly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do 3 drawings, and whatever you want will be included in that. So you have all 3 options. You have a $10 Amazon gift card, you have bookmarks, and you have a beta read. So I'm going to do 3 drawings, and the prices will all be the same. So it's 1 or all 3 of those options.
Can you actually pull it again so that I can leave, so that you
Yeah,
don't pull
I don't
me?
care. If I pull you, whatever. We'll just redo it. So, I mean, your parents are in here too.
Maybe.
So
I don't
maybe.
know.
We'll find out.
Know.
We'll find out.
I don't know if they have a YouTube account.
All right. So this is the first drawing. And it looks like... Mr. Vlandis. All right, so I will make a note. Mr. Vlandis, let me see. I can do this in Sublime. Mr. Vlandis, you have a... I'll be reaching out to all of you after this, but you have the option of $10 Amazon gift card, bookmarks, and beta read. So obviously, with the $10 gift card, I would probably do it electronically. If you don't want Amazon, I can figure out something equivalent. And the one drawback with the bookmarks is that I would need your address, which I obviously will not abuse. So whatever you want of those 3 things, you can get all of them, or, you know, just a beta read if you want it. So that is winner number 1. So let's do a second drawing, and let's see who it is. All right.
I thought for a second it was going to be yourself.
If I win, or if Adriana wins, we'll obviously go again. But yeah, Nicole,
I don't need a beta read.
Yes. Nicole, you can get a $10 gift card, the bookmarks, and a beta read, whatever you want. Like I said, I'll be reaching out to you after this. And for the final drawing, I know I should have made this maybe in escalating order of prizes to make it more interesting. But again, I'm honestly just so happy with this entire community that I didn't really know how to express that without going completely over the top. So I just figured I'd make it all even.
I mean, I'm pretty internet jaded, and I think your enthusiasm is infectious. So
thank you. Well, that's awesome. So let's go for the final drawing.
While you're getting Rufus snores.
Yeah, my dog doesn't really care about this.
He does not.
Oh, Nicole won again. So let's...
Do you want to just do a redraw?
We'll just do a redraw. Sorry. The random number generator is not very good for this, apparently.
The random number generator is officially random. That's how you know. Or not random enough. It's really hard to program true randomness.
I know. I'm putting that in a finding.
You should. I don't run this. I didn't create this random number generator.
Nicole, if you win again, I'm just going to give you $20 through Amazon and call it a day. Hopefully, I get a 3rd winner.
It's gonna be you this time.
If it's me, I'm just getting up and walking away.
Okay.
Oh, Morgan. Awesome. So, Morgan, you get, like I said,
for my fellow nerds, this is how difficult it is to program true randomness. They are not running it based on the C++ randomness library, obviously. Obviously.
That's fair. So, once again, thank you for joining me. As always, I appreciate that you are giving candid answers to myself and everyone who has decided to join us.
Covered in Rufus fur on my face.
That's fine. But like I always say, this is a genuinely great feeling to be a part of such a warm and welcoming community. So, I am Ben Pick.
And I'm Adriana Vecchio.
Thank you for joining us in the 1-year anniversary of Running to Write. If you enjoyed this discussion, let me know. Please don't forget to press those like buttons, subscribe if you haven't, and feel free to comment either in the chat or below on the actual video. Sorry, let me see what Morgan says. Or on Instagram. I'm getting there. I'm getting there. Hold on. I'm so excited for your book to come out. And thank you, Morgan. Thank you, everyone. So I'm trying to catch up with all of the stuff, all of these lovely comments. All right. Sorry, I don't know if the microphone caught that. Our dog is snoring.
Deep snores.
Anyways, I post my running and writing progress on Instagram and Twitter as Running to Write. Please feel free to follow me and join in with your own thoughts.
Feel free to follow Rufus at
Rufus the Plot Hound. Yeah, I can put that in the chat window afterwards, this too. If you have any more questions about the impact of writing and maintaining relationships, please drop them below or feel free to message me. And if you do you have any last thing to say?
Oh, I mean, if you guys would like, if you have more questions related to, writing, relationships, navigating that, or just how to connect better with the non-writers in your life, I'm always happy to come back.
All right, I just want to do one last thing before we completely quit out, and you can see what I'm doing. But yeah, so Twitter or should it be Instagram?
What?
Rufus.
Oh, Rufus is on Instagram.
Sorry, if you bear with us for just 1 second, so
we've gotten a lot of interest in our dog. He does have his own Instagram. It's entirely photos of him sleeping because that's all he does.
Yeah, so we can try and entertain you for a few more seconds while I get this thing going. And
Rufus's favorite things to do are to eat trash on the street and to sleep.
There we go. So yeah, thank you everyone. Again, I cannot thank you enough for subscribing to my channel, for liking all my videos, for watching every week, and for being here. This really means so much to me. So again, I'm glad I could give just a little bit back with offering up my time for these beta reads, and I hope to see you all next week. So take care. See you next time.
Bye.